Okay, so picture this, uh, a body, discovered hanging in this town, St. Haven, right?
Mhm.
No ID or anything.
Right.
And the local police, they immediately call it a suicide case closed.
Yeah.
But here's where things get kind of interesting, for you at least.
Okay.
It's the not.
The not.
The not. Uh, our sources highlight this, unnerving precision
Mm.
with how it was tied,
Interesting.
which just doesn't quite fit the picture, does it?
Yeah, it's fascinating because you know that one detail, right?
Yeah.
It suggests there's a level of intentionality, like
Yeah.
that you don't normally think about with suicide, right? Like
Yeah.
it's supposed to be this impulsive act, but this points to something else. So,
Yeah.
so was this really just like a solitary act of despair,
Yeah.
or is there something more orchestrated happening beneath the surface of St. Haven?
Yeah. And that leads us to the heart of this deep dive.
Right.
Because as we examine the sources, right, it becomes clear this isn't just about a potential crime.
Yeah.
It's about the silence that kind of envelops the town.
Mm-hmm.
The perfect crime, in this case,
Yeah.
isn't like some complex conspiracy or anything.
Right.
But the town's desire for peace,
Right.
a peace that they seem willing to maintain
Yeah.
by not asking too many questions.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
If we kind of zoom out a little bit
Uh-huh.
and look at the bigger picture, right?
Yeah.
So societal indifference can be a really powerful tool for concealment.
Right.
The comfort of the known, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's flawed, can often outweigh the discomfort of confronting a potentially disturbing truth.
So now into this carefully curated tranquility walks Gideon Wells.
Okay.
Our sources paint him as someone who operates outside
Mm.
the usual St. Haven, social dynamics,
Interesting.
guided more by scripture than by a desire to fit in.
Right.
He's the one willing to challenge this narrative.
So what stands out to me about Gideon is his unwavering commitment to what he believes is right.
Right.
Makes him a disruptor.
Yeah.
His pursuit of truth, as he sees it,
Mm-hmm.
directly threatens those who benefit from the
Yeah.
official story
Right.
remaining unchallenged.
Right.
And it's not about physical power or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's the power of conviction
Right.
against collective silence.
It really brings to light how in these close-knit communities,
Mm-hmm.
complicity can take root when individuals
Yeah.
have their own interests
Mm-hmm.
to protect.
Mm.
Perhaps a blind eye turned here, a favor exchanged there.
Right.
The truth could unravel a delicate web
Yeah.
of local arrangements.
This raises an important question for you,
Mhm.
listening out there.
Yeah.
Why might individuals knowingly support
Yeah.
a flawed system?
Like?
And our sources suggest it often comes down to a calculation of personal cost,
Okay.
the disruption and potential fallout from uncovering the truth
Yeah.
might feel far more damaging to their individual lives
Right.
than simply accepting the status quo.
But Gideon,
Yeah.
our sources indicate, is motivated
Mm-hmm.
by a different calculus.
Interesting.
He seems driven by a fundamental sense of justice,
Okay.
a need to acknowledge a life lost,
Right.
regardless of the victim's standing
Yeah.
within the town's social hierarchy.
This underscores how easily injustice can be concealed
Yeah.
when a community actively avoids scrutiny.
Right.
If no one is willing to ask the difficult questions,
Yeah.
if the prevailing sentiment is to maintain peace at all costs,
Uh-huh.
then the truth can remain buried in plain sight.
One quote from our material really resonates here.
Yeah.
The perfect crime doesn't hide in the shadows. It hides in plain sight.
Wow.
In St. Haven, that plain sight seems to be
Yeah.
this rushed conclusion of suicide
Okay.
and the subsequent silence.
Precisely right.
Yeah.
It suggests that the most effective way to obscure wrongdoing
Mm-hmm.
isn't elaborate secrecy,
No.
but making the truth so uncomfortable to acknowledge that it becomes effectively invisible.
And another powerful line.
Okay.
It's not that they didn't know.
Yeah.
It's that they didn't want to know.
Right.
That speaks volumes about the power of willful ignorance.
It does.
And in a Camilo.
Which leads us to silence is the town's defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And Gideon, he's the crack forming in that wall.
Right.
He represents the external pressure, the refusal to accept the silence that
Yeah.
begins to expose what lies beneath.
Finally, there's this line. The truth costs more than most people are willing to pay.
Right.
Gideon, in his actions, seems willing to bear that cost,
Uh-huh.
while St. Haven as a whole Clearly isn't.
So as you consider St. Haven, right?
Yeah.
Remember that their primary concern isn't necessarily death itself,
Hmm.
but the disruption of their carefully maintained equilibrium. Gideon's insistence on seeking answers forces them to confront truths they have actively suppressed.
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
It does.
Have you ever witnessed a situation
Yeah.
where it seemed easier for people to ignore
Right.
an uncomfortable truth?
Uh-huh.
Why might individuals protect a system
Yeah.
they might even privately disapprove of?
This deep dive into St. Haven and Gideon's solitary pursuit of truth encourages us to consider what it means to uphold principles in a world that often prioritizes a superficial peace.
So as you go about your day,
Yeah.
perhaps reflect on this.
Okay.
What happens when a community prioritizes a quiet life over the pursuit of justice?
Right.
And what does Gideon's story tell us about the courage required
Right.
to challenge such a system?